as they watched the view outside. Vasper slowly reached into his pocket, pulling out a small red velvet ring box. "I have something for you, a birthday gift," he said, handing it to Shanti. Her heart raced with a mix of nervousness and excitement as she accepted it. "Open it," Vasper urged gently, in a husky tone. As Shanti opened the box, she was met with the sight of a golden ring adorned with a red diamond. She gasped, speechless, knowing how rare such a gem was. Her eyes widened in awe as she looked from the ring to Vasper, who was smiling, clearly pleased with her reaction. Vasper took the ring and her left hand, slipped it onto her fourth finger. Holding her hand tenderly, "This is how much I love you. My love for you is eternal. Like this ring, my love for you is even greater, Shanti," he whispered, kissing her hand as he gazed into her eyes. "I love you," he said, pulling her into an embrace, bringing tears to her eyes with his tender gesture. Shanti couldn't help but keep admiring the ring on her finger, its color and brilliance, captivating anyone who saw it. Admiring how the color and brilliance stood out. Suddenly, Vasper lifted her and carried her to the sofa. They both sat down. "Can I change now?" "I haven't changed yet," she said, glancing at her bathrobe. Vasper smiled mischievously. "Why bother? It's going to come off soon anyway," he teased, making her blush and laugh at the same time. His teasing nature resurfaced. "Vasper, I want to know, when did you arrive at the vineyard? Why didn't you join us earlier?" Shanti asked in gentle voice, though her voice held a hint of hesitation. Vasper took Shanti's feet and placed them on his lap, massaging them gently, though it tickled her. "I arrived before Samara but stayed hidden in the parking area. I used a different car to avoid being recognized by Laika and used an invisible shield to hide my presence and to avoid detection from my kind," Vasper explained, looking into Shanti's eyes. "I was waiting to see if David or you would come, and I was right. I listened to your discussions, waiting for a moment when you were alone. And thank you for stepping away," he said, smiling at her. "If you heard our conversation, you know why I went to the restroom," Shanti said. Vasper pulled her closer, making her sit on his lap. Feeling the warmth of his body against hers, she settled in, looking at him as he continued. "Don't believe what Laika says. She knows about our relationship," Vasper said, placing a finger on Shanti's lips, whose eyes widened in disbelief. "Yes, she knows. That's why she brought Samara here and continued her plans at my mansion. I've already talked to Samara, and we've officially ended our relationship. I'm just waiting for her party to finish so they can leave. I'm only concerned about her family," Vasper explained. "How did she find out? We haven't been seen together in public. I mean, where?" Shanti's voice revealed her worry. "Vasper, what's going to happen to us?" Shanti asked, her voice full of concern and her eyes searching his. Vasper responded by giving her a deep, lingering kiss. "Don't worry. Laika and I have already talked. But I didn't expect her to follow my warning. She only follows her own orders and Alexander's commands. It's better if you don't go to the vineyard. Let David handle Laika," Vasper said, looking into her eyes. "But right now, I can't. It's a disrespect if I will not go to Samara's celebration. Who knows what they might say about me? Other politicians will be there too," Shanti said with a sigh in her voice. Shanti couldn't help but feel worried and jealous of Samara. "When you talked, did anything else happen?" she asked, unsure why she even asked the question. Vasper laughed softly at her. "Nothing else happened," he assured her. He didn't want to detail Samara's suffering. "So, where did you sleep after your talk?" She looked straight into Vasper's eyes, not blinking. Vasper's mouth fell open at the tone of her question. He chuckled, realizing Shanti was jealous of Samara, but he couldn't blame her. "I slept on the beach. I went straight to the island. I slept by the shore, thinking of how to find you, imagining you," Vasper replied, causing Shanti's cheeks to blush. Can we not talk about her reaction? She hasn't accepted it yet. She's in denial, and her ego is hurt. I hope we finalize everything in our next conversation because I'll also face Laika. This is all Laika's plan. Don't let what she says affect you, Vasper said, squeezing Shanta's hand. So Samara has already been to your mansion, and even in your room. So, she's in your room right now? Shanta said, sounding like she was complaining. Vasper let out a bitter laugh. Shanti, to be honest, I never planned on taking you to my mansion. Please don't be upset, okay? But Shanta's face already showed her mixed emotions. Wait. Before you get mad, let me explain, Vasper quickly said, seeing her expression. Do you know how many women I've taken there? Oh, God, here we go again. All my wild moments happened there, Vasper admitted, his voice tinged with shame. I don't want to take you there. That place holds the shadows of my past with women. Even with Samara, before I met you, that's why I brought you to places like this, like the island, where it's just you and me. I plan to sell that property. Since I met you, I don't want to go back there. That's why I'm looking for a new property we can call ours. Like this house, and our island paradise, so, please don't be jealous of Samara being at my mansion, Vasper said in a low voice, his eyes pleading. Vasper, how can I not be jealous? Shouldn't I be the one at your house? But why are you hiding me instead? Isn't that unfair? Shanta said, her emotions shifting, her voice trembling, on the verge of tears. Vasper's expression changed too. Oh. Please, Shanti, don't talk like that. It hurts me too. I don't see you that way. I didn't want Samara to stay there, it was Laika's plan. She set it up, he said, kissing her. You are the most important woman in my life, no one else. That's why I don't want you to be mixed up with my past. I want your memories to be special, just ours. Don't you want that? Vasper's voice was soothing, trying to make Shanti understand. Shanti fell silent for a moment, contemplating Vasper's explanation. Her eyes showed understanding at him. So, how many women have you been with? She's not done yet, she asked. Vasper laughed, shaking his head. Do I really need to answer that? Just imagine, I'm Alexander Mondragon's son. And I've always been a magnet to women, he chuckled softly. In the past, there were no limits to what I wanted. But it's ugly to talk about it now, you might get mad at me again, he said. Smiling. You said you have nothing to hide from me, that you want me to know everything about you, but when I ask, you don't want to talk about it. Shanti teased. Vasper laughed loudly at her remark. He playfully bit her neck, making Shanti giggle and squirm. She let out a soft cry, laughing as Vasper kissed her deeply. They wrestled playfully on the sofa, filling the room with their laughter. Suddenly, they fell silent as Vasper lay on top of her, her bathrobe partly open, her legs wrapped around his waist. Their position made their bodies heat up, their hearts racing. Even though Vasper still had his shorts on, Shanti could feel his arousal, intensifying her own feelings. Their lips met again in a fiery kiss, Shanta's legs locking around Vasper's waist. Vasper quickly removed Shanta's bathrobe top, both of them moving aggressively. Shanta's hands fumbled with Vasper's shorts, unbuttoning and unzipping them. She managed to remove his shorts, hearing Vasper groan. Shanti, our position is dangerous, Vasper said between kisses. Both their bodies trembled with heat, Vasper's arousal evident against her. She reached inside his boxers, and they both gasped for air. Vasper chuckled, his voice trembling. Restraining, I want you inside me. I want you now, Shanti whispered, her words like a siren to Vasper. Shanti, not now, Vasper said, but Shanta's hand moved up and down inside his boxer, increasing the friction, making it harder for him to resist. She pulled down his boxers, and they both moaned, gasping for air. Shanta's grip tightened around Vasper, and he did the same. Holding each other tightly. Vasper struggled to control himself, but it was becoming impossible. Shanti, I'm losing control, I might not hold back, Vasper moaned, but Shanti didn't hear him, responding only to their bodies' heat. Their bodies were so close, just a little more and he would be inside her. The sofa creaked under their movements. Vasper sat up to escape Shanta's legs, but she followed, ending up straddling him. They were lost in each other's heat, Vasper looking at Shanta's body. He's almost going crazy with desire. Vasper, can we forget everything for now? I want you now, Shanta said. Vasper's response was as hot as her body, kissing her deeply. Shanty, if we forget now, we'll regret it later, Vasper said in a trembling voice, still kissing her. Shanty ground her hips against him, the friction enough to make their bodies tremble. As the intensity increased, Vasper could no longer hold back. He lifted Shanty effortlessly and laid her down, his mouth on her, hungrily kissing her. He took her 2 thighs and put in on his shoulders, while his hands grasping Shanta's breasts. Shanta's body writhed with pleasure, her fingers tangled in Vasper's hair. He savored the taste of her, the way her body responded to his touch. Shanta's moans grew louder, her body writhing in response to the sensations he was creating. She was completely lost in the pleasure, her mind unable to focus on anything else but the intense, overwhelming feelings coursing through her. Her body arched, hips lifting off, as she chased the pleasure that was building inside her. She was so close, every nerve ending on fire with desire. Vasper's name was the only coherent thought she could manage, and she repeated it like a mantra, her voice trembling with need. After a moment, Shanty cried out Vasper's name in a deep moan, her hands growing weak. Vasper continued to taste her, savoring every moment. Shanta's chest heaved as she relaxed, looking at Vasper, who was still down there. Her body twitched with every touch of his tongue. Finally, Vasper stopped and moved up to reach her lips again, with a deep, passionate kiss. Their bodies relaxed, Vasper smiling down at her. We almost made a mistake. It's a good thing I remembered to hold back, Vasper said, kissing her deeply. She smiled, lost in the moment, thinking about what had just happened. On that day, the two of them enjoyed walking outside in the snow, wearing the winter clothes Vasper had prepared. Vasper showed Shanty around the property, taking her on a tour to see the entire estate. Shanty was amazed because the property was much larger than she had imagined. Vasper, this property is so big, she said, her eyes filled with admiration as she looked at him. Vasper smiled back at her. For our future family. I plan to build a big mansion right here in the center, Vasper said, gesturing in front of her. Shanta listened attentively to Vasper's stories about their plans for the future. Though it was what she wanted to happen, she couldn't help but think about whether she and Vasper truly had a future together. When would they be free to go out openly, to show everyone their relationship without pretending they didn't know each other in public, especially in front of Vasper's family? I have a plan, if you're agreeable, Vasper said, looking intently into her eyes. What is it? Shanty asked, her interest piqued. Would you like to have your mansion rebuilt? I'll handle everything, but you can decide on the plans and designs. The important thing is to rebuild your property, Vasper said eagerly, waiting for her decision. Are you serious, Vasper? Shanty asked, tears welling up in her eyes at the memories of her father, who had died in the fire that destroyed their mansion. Just let me know when we can start working on the designs and discuss the details with you, Vasper said as Shanty hugged him, crying. Vasper wiped her tears and kissed her deeply and passionately, filled with love and understanding. I love you, Shanty. I love you so much. I'm ready to do anything to make you happy and ensure your well-being. I know how important your father's memories and your family's home are to you, and it would make me happy to restore what you lost. We can replicate the old design of your mansion if you want, Vasper said, his eyes sincere. But, Vasper, even though I appreciate your plan, don't you think it's inappropriate for you to spend so much money on me when we're not even married yet? Shanty asked hesitantly, noticing the slight sadness in Vasper's expression. I haven't thought about the cost, Shanty. It's not a problem for me. Sooner or later we're getting there anyway. What's important is your happiness and having a place of your own. You don't have to stay with David's. I know you can live at the vineyard, but it's different when you have your own place to call home, Vasper said, his voice persuasive. I understand your point, Vasper. You want me to separate from David's family? Is that what you mean? Shanty asked, feeling a bit embarrassed as Vasper met her gaze. Yes, that's what I want, so they can't just take you anywhere. You'll be in one place, and we can take turns watching over you. They won't have control over you because it's your own house, Vasper explained. Let me consult with David first to see if they'll agree, Shantis said. Don't mention that it's my plan or that I'm spending the money, okay? Because they won't agree and we'll find ways to prevent it. He added, holding her hands gently. I can rebuild my mansion, Vasper. I'll handle it myself, all right? Shantis said. Don't you want me to spend on it? It would make me happy to give that to you. Just like this property I bought for us, I have another one coming in Paris, just waiting for the paperwork, Vasper said excitedly. Thank you, Vasper, for all your efforts for me. What I'm thinking about is our future. It would be wonderful to live a normal life like everyone else. But for us, we can't go public, we're hiding. How long will it be like this? Shanti asked, looking into Vasper's eyes, seeing his sadness too. Vasper hugged her and kissed her gently. Trust that we'll get through this together. Soon, we'll find our freedom, Vasper reassured her. They talked for a long time outside the house in the cold snow before it was time to go back to Jacob's mansion. Shanti changed into the clothes she had worn at the vineyard. But before Vasper let her go, they shared another moment of intense love. Afterwards, they had lunch together. Don't take off this ring, no matter where David takes you. It's how I'll find you, Vasper said. Shanta looked at the ring, mesmerized by its beauty. Does that mean it has a tracker? Shanti asked. Vasper nodded, smiling. I can't stand not seeing you, even for a single day, he said, making Shanta's heart flutter. At Samara's party, will we have to pretend we don't know each other again? If Laika knows about our relationship, how can I interact with you when she's around? Shanti asked, her voice filled with doubt. We'll still talk. Of course, normal interaction, Laika can't do things weird in front of people. He said. David said, I shouldn't make eye contact with you to avoid making things awkward. And what if Samara announces something about your relationship as she said she would? Shanti asked, almost whispering, the pain evident in her voice. That won't happen, there won't be any such announcement. Everything all about the birthday celebration. Don't worry about us, okay? Trust me, not the stories from others, especially not Laika. And don't avoid me like David suggested. He's like an annoying brother. Don't ignore me at the party, okay? Make eye contact, I don't care what Laika will say. Same with David. I will sit at your table. He added. And Shanta's eyes widened. What? And Samara? She asked, worried. Shanti, we already talk about things. He said, preparing to return to Jacob's mansion. I love you, Shanti, Vasper said as they teleported to the mansion, kissing. Upon arriving at Shanta's room in Jacob's mansion, they found David and the rest, waiting for them. Everyone was startled when Vasper and Shanta suddenly appeared. Eyes wide, they stepped back, alert and staring intensely at Vasper and Shanti. Vasper, however, remained calm, his arms wrapped around Shanta's waist. Lorena was also shocked, gazing at them. David's expression quickly shifted from shock to anger, directed at Vasper. Jacob and Jake shared his sentiment, their faces tense. Louis, Gabriel, Marco, and Justin observed quietly, their reactions more reserved. Jake was the first to notice the ring on Shanta's finger. His expression changed, followed by Jacob's. Soon, everyone noticed the ring. Justin's mouth fell open in surprise as he stared at it, and Vasper noticed their reactions. What's that, Shanti? An engagement ring? Marco asked, unable to take his eyes off it. Wow, a rare diamond, right? A red diamond. Only a few people in the world have one of those, and now you're one of them. It's just a birthday gift, Marco, Shanti replied, feeling a bit embarrassed but proud to show off the ring. She saw the amazement in her companion's eyes, but David was not pleased. Shanti, you know Vasper has a girlfriend, right? We talked about it at the vineyard. Why did you go with Vasper and accept a ring from him? He's two-timing you. Are you okay with being played by him? David's voice was filled with anger. Before he could finish, Vasper's fist connected with his face, causing panic in the room, especially for Lorena and Shanti. They screamed. The men were shocked by Vasper's swift movement. David crashed into the cabinet, blood dripping from his mouth. He hadn't seen Vasper's attack coming. Standing up, he wiped the blood from his mouth, glaring at Vasper. Jake and Jacob grabbed Vasper's shoulders to hold him back, while Gabriel and Louis stood by David, ready in case Vasper attacked again. Marco and Justin stood, shaking their heads in disbelief at what they had witnessed. Vasper struggled against Jake and Jacob's grip, his eyes fixed on David. They pushed Vasper out onto the balcony. Despite their efforts, Vasper's strength was formidable. Shanti, crying silently, approached Vasper and hugged him. Please, stop, understand David's concern. They're worried about me, Shanti pleaded, looking into Vasper's eyes with sincerity. Vasper looked at her and kissed her lips. Gently. I'm sorry, but I can't accept his lies. They believe Laika's stories, Vasper said, his gaze hard as he looked at the men staring at him. He hugged Shanti tightly. Lorena, take Shanti outside, David ordered, his voice authoritative. Lorena nodded quickly, looking at Shanti with fear, signaling her to leave. But Shanti shook her head. I won't leave. You go, Lorena, Shanti said defiantly, causing Vasper to hold her even tighter. Lorena left, trembling. David's gaze hardened further, his anger palpable. It was the first time Shanti had seen David this furious. Jake and Jacob noticed David's reaction, their faces serious, ready to intervene between David and Vasper. Marco, Justin, Gabriel, and Louis were all on high alert. Shanti, get out, David commanded, his voice strong and intimidating. Shanti panicked, frightened by David's tone. But she was more scared of leaving Vasper alone against the 7 men. No, David, I won't leave, Shanti said firmly, her voice resolute. Vasper's grip on her waist tightened. David's tone changed. Jake, he said. Jake understood immediately, as did Jacob. In a swift, coordinated move, Jacob pushed Vasper towards the edge of the balcony while Jake grabbed Shanti. Their movements were so fast that neither Shanti nor Vasper could react. In a blink, Jake and Shanti vanished, and Vasper was flung far from the mansion. Jacob followed Vasper, leaping to catch him. Before Vasper could land, Jacob's blue flame attack hit him, followed by relentless punches. Gabriel and Justin joined in, their movements like lightning. But Vasper was no ordinary opponent, especially with his teleportation power. He landed several blows on his attackers, though they seldom hit him back because he vanished so quickly. The 3 fought Vasper together, their shirts torn, their protective shields failing. They stood, catching their breath, blood on their faces and bodies. Vasper used the brief pause to self-heal his wounds, though the bloodstains remained. He saw their determination and readiness to eliminate him, especially Jacob, whose anger was personal because of Shanti. The tension was electric, the air thick with anticipation. Vasper's power crackled around him, his aura pulsing with energy. He clenched his fists, his resolve hardening. Vasper declared, his eyes flashing with intensity. Jacob's own power flared in response, blue flames licking at his fingertips. We won't let you corrupt her, Vasper, he said, his voice steady but fierce. You're not worthy of her. The 2 men faced off, their auras clashing in a burst of energy. The ground beneath them trembled, and the sky above seemed to darken as their powers collided. Gabriel and Justin stood ready, their own energies flaring in preparation for the inevitable clash. Vasper, you have no shame. Your fiancé is at home, and you're here with Shanti. You even kidnapped her from the vineyard meeting. Didn't you think about how it would affect her? Jacob shouted, his voice full of rage. Jacob screamed, gritting his teeth at Vasper, you've belittled Shanti by treating her this way. You've manipulated her, made her believe your lies just to get her. Have you no shame? Vasper's laugh was grating, infuriating his enemies. "You're delusional, Jacob. At least I don't force kisses on women who have no interest in me. I'm not a brute like you." Vasper yelled back, his voice dripping with disdain. With a sudden burst of speed, Vasper launched himself at Jacob, channeling all his pent-up rage. Jacob was sent flying into the trees, smashing through them with the force of Vasper's kick. He coughed up blood, feeling the raw power of Vasper's attack. Justin hurried to help Jacob, who was staggering to stand. "He's too strong," Justin muttered, supporting Jacob. They saw Vasper coming again, but Gabriel intercepted him, sending Vasper flying back. "I'll take you to the mansion, Jacob," Justin said, hastily moving while Vasper was momentarily down. But Vasper attacked again, his eyes burning with determination to end the fight with Jacob. As Vasper prepared his deadly strike, Jacob pushed Justin aside and released a barrage of blue fireballs. They struck Vasper, followed by Gabriel's relentless assault, tearing through the forest. Despite the damage, Vasper stood firm, his resolve intensifying. Facing Gabriel, equally prepared to end the battle, Jacob, though weakened, stood back up with Justin's help. They moved quickly towards the mansion, visible at the mountain's peak. Inside, David and the others watched in shock, with Shanti crying out, "Jacob!" Without hesitation, Marco, Louis, and David rushed to the battlefield to assist Gabriel against Vasper. Shanti panicked, knowing they wouldn't show mercy to Vasper. Jacob clutched his stomach, wincing in pain from Vasper's powerful kick. Shanti, overwhelmed, cried, "Jacob! Oh my God! Justin, what do we do?" Justin quickly grabbed a cloth and wrapped it around Jacob's wound. "Don't worry, Shanti, I'll be fine soon," Jacob said, forcing a smile despite the pain. Justin called out, "Rafa," and one of Jacob's elf helpers entered, quickly approaching Jacob and touching his wound. Justin sighed in relief. Shanti, anxious, looked towards the battlefield. Concerned for Vasper, she asked, "Where's Jake?" "He followed them," Justin replied coldly. She saw Jacob's face relax as Rafa healed him, but her worry for Vasper grew. Hearing the sounds of battle, she knew it was a clash of powerful beings. Pacing, Shanti asked, "Where's Jake?" Panic rising, she searched for him. "Jake is there, Shanti," Justin answered again. Seeing Jacob's face straighten, Shanti approached Justin. "Take me to the battlefield, now," she commanded, her eyes fierce, startling Jacob. "No. It's too dangerous. You'll only be a distraction," Jacob argued, facing Shanti. Her resolve hardened. "Now, Justin," she shouted at Justin. Her voice filled with authority and anger, releasing a shockwave that left Jacob and Justin gaping. Shanti's demeanor changed, her innocent look replaced with fierce determination. Her eyes turned from soft brown to a vibrant blue. Rafa, witnessing this, quickly left the room in fear. Justin, without hesitation, picked up Shanti to take her to the battlefield, but Jacob took her from him. Holding Shanti, he leaped from the balcony to reach the battlefield quickly. As Jacob ran, Shanti saw his pained expression, but she focused on Vasper. She noticed Jake's lightning bow. Everything around them blurred due to Jacob's speed. Holding Jacob's neck tightly, she whispered, "I'm sorry, Jacob," her voice soft but clear to Jacob's ears. Jacob looked at her, their eyes meeting. "You have nothing to apologize for, Shanti," he replied, his voice gentle yet firm. His eyes tinged with pain. Jacob's footsteps pounded the ground as he raced through the forest, the sounds of battle growing louder with each stride. Shanti clung to him, her heart pounding in rhythm with his footsteps, fear and determination warring within her. They burst into the clearing where the fight was raging. Vasper, Gabriel, and the others were locked in fierce combat, their movements a blur of power and speed. Trees shattered, and the ground quaked under their blows. The air crackled with energy, the tension palpable. Vasper stood at the center, his eyes blazing with anger and resolve. Gabriel faced him, equally determined, his stance unwavering. The two combatants, powerful and relentless, seemed evenly matched. But Vasper's fury made him a formidable opponent. Jacob set Shanti down atop the huge rock, gently but firmly, his eyes never leaving the battlefield. "Stay back, Shanti. This is no place for you," he said, his voice laced with concern and authority. Jacob joined the fray, his blue fireballs lighting up the sky as he attacked Vasper. Gabriel and Marco coordinated their efforts, their movements precise and deadly. Despite their combined strength, Vasper held his ground, his power seemingly endless. The battle intensified, the fighters moving with blinding speed and precision. Shanti watched, her heart in her throat, as the clash of powerful men unfolded before her. Every strike, every blow, was a testament to their incredible power and determination. The ground shook, and the air filled with the sounds of their struggle. Shanti felt helpless, torn between her fear for Vasper's life and her loyalty to David's and the others. She could see the strain on their faces, the toll the battle was taking on them. In a moment of fierce combat, Vasper and Jacob locked eyes, their mutual hatred burning bright. "You won't win, Vasper," Jacob growled, his voice filled with determination. "We won't let you take Shanti." Vasper's eyes flashed with defiance. "She's already mine," he spat, launching another powerful attack. The force of his blow sent shockwaves through the clearing, the impact resonating in Shanti's very bones. The fight continued, each side refusing to yield. Shanti's heart ached with every blow, every cry of pain. She wanted to intervene, to stop the madness. As the battle raged on, Shanti felt a surge of power within her, a strength she had never known. Her fear melted away, replaced by a fierce determination to protect those she loved. She knew she had to act, to do something to end this nightmare. In her position, Shanti saw David and Louis moving. It was the first time she saw David fighting. Even though their only opponent was Vasper, she noticed how much effort they exerted to catch Vasper, who kept slipping away because of his teleportation power. Vasper, seeing Shanti standing on a large rock, trembling with fear and worry, swiftly approached her. He enveloped Shanti in an invisible shield, allowing her to move but ensuring her safety. "Stay here," Vasper instructed, his body drenched in a mix of sweat and blood. Shanti continued to cry, overwhelmed by the chaos. "Vasper, there's no need to fight them. Just go home, please? There are 7 of them, and you're alone. Please, go home." "You don't have to prove anything to them," Shanti pleaded, her voice filled with worry for Vasper. She knew he had no reason to fight David and the others, but she also understood the depth of Vasper's pride. David and his companions only seemed to grow more infuriated by Vasper's presence. "Just go home, Vasper. You have nothing to prove to them," Shanti repeated, her concern for Vasper immeasurable. She couldn't blame or restrain David and the others, she was caught between 2 powerful forces clashing against each other. How could she quell the heated tempers of the men before her? She didn't want any of them to get hurt, as they were all important to her. She couldn't leave the shield Vasper had created around her. "No, I won't back down, Shanti. This is what they want, so I'll give it to them, especially David. He acts like an annoying brother to you, overreacting and spreading lies. I won't let him treat us this way. He wants to keep you away from me, and I won't allow that." "Stay right there," Vasper said, his eyes blazing with determination to finish the fight. David's face was devoid of any softness, his anger toward Vasper reaching its limit. Shanti realized she had no choice but to witness the battle unfold between these powerful men, each showcasing their skills and strengths. The conflict was inevitable, and Shanti could only hope it wouldn't end in tragedy. David, noticing Shanti's presence, scolded Jacob for bringing her to the battlefield. Just then, Jake appeared, facing off against Vasper. Jake's long hair had come loose, cascading down his shoulders. Both Jake and Vasper moved smoothly, disappearing and reappearing due to their shared teleportation abilities. But Louis saw an opening and trapped Vasper using his telekinesis, suspending him midair. Shanti panicked. "David! Louis! That's enough. Please, let Vasper go," she cried, her desperation evident. However, Vasper struggled against Louis's hold, nearly breaking free. Seeing this, David launched a powerful punch at Vasper, sending them crashing through the trees to the hillside. Shanti watched in horror as Vasper grew weaker. Her panic intensified when she saw Marco, Gabriel, and David ganging up on Vasper while Jake floated above, ready to strike. Shanti recognized Jake's stance, knowing his next move. Justin also joined the fray, adding to Vasper's peril. Shanti couldn't hear the surrounding noise, only her own voice, as she fought to stay conscious, fearing for Vasper's life. She saw Lewis holding Vasper, who was floating helplessly. Justin approached her. "Is this what you wanted to see? This is our true situation, Shanti. Your boyfriend is our enemy, a mortal foe. His family killed our parents," Justin said, his voice hard and determined, glancing at David for support. Vasper, weakened, looked at Shanti with sorrow. He couldn't move, especially after David and the others' attacks had drained his strength. "Justin, no, please," Shanti cried out, tears streaming down her face. But Justin was deaf to her pleas. "No. Stop, David. Please," Shanti screamed, her voice filled with desperation. But David and the others ignored her pleas. Jake readied his lightning bow and arrow, aiming directly at Vasper's heart. Shanti, in utter despair, called out Jake's name, but he didn't hear her. "Shanti, do what you must," a voice urged her. At that moment, an ethereal sword materialized in Shanti's hand. She screamed Vasper's name, breaking the invisible shield protecting her. A powerful shockwave emanated from her, shattering the landscape and sending everyone, including Vasper, flying. The force knocked down trees and flung the combatants far and wide. Justin, closest to the epicenter, was also hurled back. Shanti felt the energy surging through her, the sword in her hand feeling heavy and electrifying. She screamed in pain as electricity coursed through her body, paralyzing her muscles. The 7 men, including Vasper, stared in shock, unable to move. As Vasper attempted to approach Shanti, he was repelled by the energy surrounding her. They watched as the sword split into 6 pieces, hovering around Shanti, each moving independently. Shanti struggled to breathe, feeling as though something was constricting her lungs. The 6 swords converged above Shanti, merging into a single, brilliant weapon. It glided towards her right hand, cutting her palm. Blood dripped down the blade, which absorbed it, turning crimson. The onlookers gaped in astonishment as Shanti's physical appearance transformed. A radiant light emanated from within her, revealing angelic wings. Shanti's hair floated as if submerged in water, her eyes glowing intensely. She hovered in the air, the sword in her hand shimmering like lightning. Then, it disappeared, and the light faded from her body. She gently descended to the ground, unconscious. Vasper, Jake and Jacob rushed to her side, but Vasper moved faster, lifting her in his arms. "Vasper," David called out. "Take her to Jacob's mansion." The authority in David's voice was clear. Vasper teleported Shanti to her room in Jacob's mansion, laying her carefully on the bed. Her hair had lightened from dark brown to a soft brown. Vasper repeatedly kissed her lips, tears streaming down his face. "Shanti, wake up," he whispered desperately. He didn't know if she was okay. He knew Shanti had wielded the Sword of Destiny, and he held her hand, kissing it gently. But Shanti remained unresponsive, her face showing no sign of life. But her breathing steady, Vasper's blood stained the bed covers where she lay. He glared to the 7 guardians standing nearby observing his every move. David and the others watched him, their expressions grim. If it weren't for Shanti, what would have happened to him now, having faced the 7 guardians? David and the others stood at the foot of the bed, watching Vasper. "We'll take care of her, Vasper. Go home. Tomorrow is Samara's birthday celebration. Leave Shanti to us," David ordered firmly. Despite his reluctance, Vasper knew he had to leave. The determination in David's gaze was unwavering. Vasper glanced at Shanti one last time, then disappeared. The 7 men stared at each other, realizing the significance of what had just happened. Shanti had wielded the Sword of Destiny, a legendary weapon they had only heard about. Witnessing its power left them in awe. Rafa arrived to tend to Shanti, administering healing care. The room was filled with a tense silence as they processed the events, each man reflecting on the power Shanti had unleashed and the implications it held for their future. The shower ran, but Vasper was lost in thought, blood flowing from his body into the sink in the bathroom. He was on the island, unable to shake the images of Shanti, the sword of destiny, and the prophecy they had read and heard. Now, he had witnessed it all with his own eyes. What would Shanti face next after this event? He realized he had been in the shower for a long time, finished bathing, and dressed formally. He still had to meet with Samara and Laika. Samara's birthday was tomorrow, and she needed to return to her country immediately. He couldn't wait to return to Shanti, his thoughts only with her. But his anger towards David remained, remembering the harsh, untrue words David had hurled at him, believing Laika's lies. Vasper checked his appearance in the mirror, then stepped out onto the balcony. It was almost evening, and the peacefulness of the beach was unparalleled. He imagined Shanti's return to the beach, swimming together. There was no sign that Vasper had just been in a fight with David. All his wounds had healed, his skin flawless again. One of his power was self-healing on the spot. He teleported to his car parked behind the beach house, then to Laika's garage. He intended to bring her to his mansion for a confrontation with Samara to clear the air once and for all. When he got out of the car, Laika's elf staff greeted him and handed him an envelope. He accepted it, opened it, and read it. Laika was waiting at his mansion. He got back into his car and drove out of Laika's gate. He couldn't teleport directly to his mansion as the royal family's security would spot him. It was dark when he arrived at the mansion, and the gate was quickly opened for him. He drove into the garage, where the royal family's security saluted him with utmost respect. Khalid greeted him and opened the massive door, revealing the royal family dining at a grand table, attended by standing servants. They were having dinner with Laika and Samara, who smiled warmly at him. Samara stood and greeted him with a sweet smile, hugging him tightly and kissing his lips. Samara held Vasper's hands, and he could do nothing as Samara's family watched them. Laika also smiled, acting perfectly. The tension between them began. "Come, join us for dinner. We haven't eaten together since you arrived, Vasper," Samara said in a sweet voice that surprised him. The atmosphere in the mansion suddenly changed, and he observed Samara and Laika's movements. Samara's brother smiled as he watched Samara interact with Vasper. "I already had dinner earlier after our meeting," Vasper lied, thinking quickly. Samara pulled him, but he resisted, not planning to join them for a meal. But the queen smiled. "Vasper, please, even just a little. Join us. Your sister is here too. We're almost complete, right?" The queen's tone was concerned for him. Out of respect for the queen, Vasper couldn't refuse. Samara pulled him to sit beside her. The staff approached and served him food. As they ate, Vasper felt like he was in a torture room, surrounded by traitors. Laika, acting perfectly in front of her victims, and Samara, whom he couldn't stand. The only thing keeping him there was his respect for Samara's parents, who had treated him like a son when his relationship with Samara was good. Raphael was also kind to him. Vasper never expected to feel so alienated from the royal family, so different from before. Samara's parents noticed how quiet Vasper was while eating. Laika pretended not to notice. "Vasper, I've noticed you're working very hard. Don't you have anyone to help you with your tasks? You look so tired. We've only seen you twice since we arrived, always busy with work. Take care of yourself. Don't overwork. I remember how happy you and Samara used to be, always laughing together like children. I always hoped you'd end up together. We'd never regret it," the queen said with concern in her voice. Vasper felt deafened by the queen's words. Laika and Samara smiled sweetly. "Thank you, Mommy," Samara said, her smile sweet and loving. She held Vasper's arm, looking into his eyes. "See? I told you, no problem with them as long as it's you. They're always okay with you being the one," Samara said sweetly, her words ringing in Vasper's ears. He looked into Samara's eyes, wanting to speak but deciding against it. He's just waiting to finish their meal. Samara's family reacted positively, especially the king. Nothing is more important to us than your happiness, Samara. You're our only daughter, and your happiness is our priority. We've seen how happy you are with Vasper since you were 17. There's no doubt you have a relationship now. We have no objections, the king said sincerely. Vasper felt like he was drenched in cold water. He wanted to explode but held it in. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. He looked at Laika, who raised an eyebrow and smiled. Samara grabbed his attention, holding his cheek and kissing his lips. The kiss felt like air, bringing him disgust. He focused on finishing his meal quickly, eager to leave. He couldn't bear the pretense anymore. Raphael, when will you find someone to love? You should be ahead of Samara, the king said, turning the attention to Raphael. Oh. Yes, Daddy. Wait, tomorrow at my birthday, Shanti Lorenzo, the vineyard owner, will be there. Once Raphael sees her, it'll be wedding bells, Samara said, giggling. Laika also laughed, but Vasper stared at her. His ears rang, and his heart raced. Raphael laughed too. Really? Let's see, Raphael said, laughing with the king and queen. Yes. I mean, even I fell in love with her beauty. She's beyond compare. First time I felt insecure and intimidated by a woman. You'll see tomorrow, Samara added, her voice tinged with excitement. Everyone laughed except Vasper. He stood up and excused himself, saying he was done eating and needed to go to his room. He left Samara and Laika watching him climb the stairs. He entered his room and went straight to the bathroom, letting the shower cool his body. Still in his clothes, he let the water soak him. He wanted to unleash his anger but restrained himself, forcing himself to relax. Thoughts of Samara talking about Shanti and Laika's drama flooded his mind. He felt they were conspiring against him. He undressed and let his clothes fall to the floor. Bowing his head, he stared at the floor, trying to relax. Suddenly, he saw feet approaching. Samara stepped into the shower, and he looked up to meet her gaze. She was naked, her body glistening in the water, her smile seductive. Clearly seducing him. Samara's gaze was as alluring as the memories of their past encounters, filled with temptation and longing. But Vasper's eyes were cold, colder than ice, reflecting none of the warmth from those days. Despite his detachment, Samara showed no signs of giving up. She moved closer, and now both were soaked under the shower's relentless spray. Vasper remained still, staring into Samara's eyes. Samara's body, which once ignited an immediate fire within him, now held no effect on him. Where he once felt an intense desire to possess her, he now saw her as a sister. He respected Samara, but he couldn't bring himself to touch her body. There was no warmth or passion within him, nothing like what he felt for Shanti. Her body pressed against his, her breasts brushing against his chest. One of her hands rested on his chest, while the other caressed his lips. Vasper, I love you so much, Samara's voice trembled with emotion. I miss you so terribly. Thinking about our fight the other night is driving me insane. I can't bear to lose you. I can't bear to let you go, her voice soft and gentle, pleading for understanding. She reached for Vasper's lips, her own trembling and full of longing. Her eyes pleaded with him, her lips thirsty for his, seeking the solace and connection she so desperately craved. Before she could kiss him, Vasper turned away and removed her hand from his chest. He turned off the shower, standing firm and cold. Samara's body trembled with anger and humiliation, her heartbeat racing. Her pride shattered, she gasped for air, her emotions overwhelming. Vasper walked out of the shower, grabbed a bathrobe, and put it on without a word. He didn't look back at Samara, who remained in the shower. He headed to his cabinet, choosing clothes to wear. He put on briefs and selected a t-shirt and denim shorts, planning to check on Shanti after the discussion with Laika and Samara. As he was about to slip on his t-shirt, Samara's slap exploded across Vasper's face, catching him off guard. He grabbed his cheek, feeling the sting of her sudden act. Samara's eyes, filled with pain and rage, locked onto Vasper's, her expression a storm of betrayal and fury. She stood there, still naked, tears streaming down her face, her pride unbroken. "How dare you insult me, Vasper? I am Samara, desired by men. Someone of your status, Vasper Mondragon," she screamed, her voice echoing through the soundproof room. "You have no right to treat me like this. What did I do to deserve this from you? All I've ever done is to love you, given you everything I have, even my virginity. There's no one else in my life, only you. Why are you treating me like this? The pain, Vasper. I can't bear it." Her words were a torrent, each one laced with pain, as she slapped his chest repeatedly, her hands like a storm of frustration. But Vasper stood still, not moving, not responding. He let her vent, let her anger flow. "Why? What did I do to you? But I still love you so much. I'm going crazy over you, you bastard. What have you done to me? Why are you doing this to me?" she continued, her voice breaking with each word. Samara's hits grew weaker, her energy spent, and finally, she collapsed into silence, her body trembling with exhaustion and heartache. She looked at Vasper, her face flushed with anger and tears, her body now still, but her eyes still blazing with defiance. Vasper's face, usually so impassive, showed the slightest flicker of something. But he said nothing, just watched her with an unyielding gaze. The silence that followed was thick, suffocating. He turned away, breaking the spell, and grabbed a bathrobe, tossing it to her. Samara caught it, slipping it on, her hands shaking. "Get dressed. We'll meet in the office," Vasper said in a tone that brooked no argument, authoritative and cold. "We'll talk with Laika there. Right now. Because now is the only time I have. If you don't come, I won't attend your birthday tomorrow." Without another word, he left the room, the door clicking shut behind him. Samara stood there, the sound of the doors closing reverberating in her ears. She sank to her knees on the bed, her sobs muffled by the pillow, the pain in her heart a heavy weight. She cried, her voice breaking the silence, each tear a testament to the love and betrayal that had shattered her heart.